All right. Hopefully, this camera is going to continue to stay in webcam mode. It has been crashing on me. Tried to do a live stream, but for some reason, it kept crashing my system here. So we're just going to record a video and post it. My live stream was going to be, and was, I guess, technically for 10 minutes before it crashed. um, was going to be my first live stream because obviously that's what I want to do. I want to be able to live stream. I work a lot of hours during the day, and being able to live stream while I'm working would be ideal because getting parked up in the evening and making a video and editing that video is it's just a lot. It's a lot to do. Um, especially when your workday is something in the neighborhood of you know, at least 14 hours. So live streaming would be kind of a way around doing a bunch of video edits and also finding the time after I get parked to record. Obviously, I would still like to do live streaming while I'm parked, but either way. So I'm beating around the bush here. I was going to live stream about this whole Epstein client list situation. Um, And the way or the reason I'm doing it like this is because who thought maybe you guys would like to see the view. It's a beautiful day. They've got the big puffy clouds out. There's some bug guts on the windshield. Um, Bug holocaust, as you would. But figured you guys might like to see the road. We are in Illinois, headed south. Uh, we'll be going through St. Louis in about 2 hours. But we're closing in on Springfield, Illinois right now. This isn't Springfield, Illinois, but it's down the road, not all that far. So, the Epstein client list. You guys know that there's not an actual list, all right? The more I thought that everybody understood that there wasn't going to be a list. The list is supposed to be made after they do their investigation and they put together a list of everybody that's in the videos and compromised and flight logs to the island and all that, and that's supposed to be the list. But Epstein himself did not have a um, convenient little list of his of everybody that he had compromising information on. Why would he need that list? He had the videotapes and the photos and whatever else. But we keep talking about it like it's an actual list. It's not a list. There is no list. Um, there's the evidence. We want the evidence. We want to know who was going to that island, um, and what they were doing. And I think that we're getting lost in the sauce on the fact that truly, I believe that any of the truly juicy like videos and evidence that was seized went down the black hole. The people that wanted it gone, it's gone, or it is being held back and being used as exactly what it was intended to be used for, which is blackmail. Um, so like this idea that any of this is still available, I think it's a little bit naive. These people aren't just going to let that stuff sit there for years, um, and just wait, sitting there waiting for somebody to get a hold of it and expose it. We're talking about very powerful and well connected and wealthy people that were compromised and that this whole honeypot operation was being used against. So I don't believe that the vast majority of any of the evidence that everybody seems to think is still there is there. Now, that being said, the things that blow my mind and how this isn't being handled like a normal investigation are this. So in a normal investigation, at least if I was like a high level investigator or whatever, I don't know all the positions, but if I was somebody that was digging into this and I had unlimited resources like, you know, the head of the FBI or, you know, the the DOJ, I think that I would start like rounding up this man's pilots. He wasn't flying his own plane. He had pilots. Who were these people? What did they see? You can't tell me that they made thousands of flights or hundreds of flights um, with different people on board and didn't see things. What about the flight attendants? What about airport staff? Flight logs are very meticulously kept. You know who flew a plane, where it went. I don't know, like if you really dig deep, you could see who was like on shift, who was fueling, who I mean, these are all people that potentially saw things, heard things, saw people, and then possibly saw underage girls um with these powerful men. So you have pilots. What about so what about the captains and everything of the ships? Um, who was sailing or, operating the boats that were coming to and from the island, bringing people? Because as far as I know, I don't think there was an airstrip on the island, but there might have been. I just don't know. But let's say that there's not an airstrip on the island. Well, all those people have to get to the island, and they have to get to the island on a boat. So who was here we go, captaining those ships? Who were the crew on the boats? Who owned the boats? Like, why aren't you tracking these people down? Like this would be where I would start. The things that they had to see. Now let's go to the island and some of these palatial properties that he owned. Who maintained them? I doubt that Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell was out there pushing a lawnmower around the island or maintaining any of it. These are large estates that require massive amounts of upkeep. Probably a small army of people hired to do it. Who saw what? What about chefs? You think that he was in there fucking microwaving hot pockets while he was on his island? I highly doubt it. I guarantee you that they had people on the island cooking for him. What did they see? Who was doing the laundry? Who was bringing supplies into the island? An island like that would require regular shipments of food and water. And who was bringing that? You would think that you would track these people down. In some cases, it might be hard to figure out who was there, like gardeners and stuff like that, because there's not going to be meticulous records of that. But what are we paying billions of dollars for to create these sophisticated spying networks and organizations if they can't figure that stuff out? So the only answer, when I start thinking about, well, he required an extensive network of people to make his life possible, staff, pilots, boat captains, all that. People eh, people had to see things. You're not doing all this stuff without being seen. Where are they at? Why aren't why aren't these pilots sequestered and talked to and questioned? Huh? Nobody's squeaky clean. If you really want to get something out of somebody, you can find dirt on them. I'm sure that they didn't do their taxes properly every year. So the only answer to it that makes sense to me is They don't want to know the answers. Or the people who are actually, controlling them don't want the answers out. Because if there was an organized crime ring in a scenario where the powerful and rich weren't compromised, they wouldn't have any problem doing deep dives, turning everybody's life over that was involved in it, upending it. But they're not doing that. Instead, they're not looking into anything. And so all this, where's the Epstein blackmail list, a client list? There is no blackmail or client list. There was probably large amounts of compromising uh, photos and videos that were taken out of the property, and they went to the people who ordered those compromising photos and videos to be taken in the first place. If he was working for multiple intelligence agencies, the Mossad and the CIA, um, or whoever, they're the ones that would have made sure to secure the evidence. And then again, maybe he didn't like when it came to really big targets, maybe he turned that stuff over and he didn't hold on to it. But the idea, like by turn it over, I mean whoever his handlers were in the Mossad and the CIA, because I don't believe it was just the Mossad. I believe that our own government was involved in it. I think that the Mossad and the CIA and our own deep state are basically one and the same thing. I don't really think that there's too much of a difference here. So, well, look at that. My camera has shit out on me again. Is it overheating? Is this the problem that we are facing? Let me see. I don't know. Fun stuff. I'm telling you, every piece of equipment I've been using today has been failing me miserably, which is fun when you're just trying to make a couple videos real quick. See if that brings her back to life. Shut her down and turn her back on. Hey, look at that. There I am. So, tell you what, anybody that thinks that there's going to be some damning list that comes out, like a list of names or something, is fooling themselves. They're never going to let this information out. And although I desperately want that information to be released, we can never be sure. Even if a tentative list came out or a list came out with names on it and some corroborating evidence, how are we ever going to be sure that that's the entirety of the list? I would never trust that it's the entirety of the list. I would always think, okay, well, they threw I mean, at this point, I would just say, well, they just threw some expendables, some sacrifices at the people, and the actual real perpetrators have gotten away. And there's all this focus on who was on the client list, which there should be a focus on who was on the client list, but there's no focus on, well, I couldn't say no focus. There should be a heavier emphasis on who orchestrated all this. Because if you don't get those people, they are just going to move on to the next operation where little girls and little boys are once again going to be victimized and used. I think that should be it's yeah, Jeffrey Epstein was a pawn in somebody else's bigger game. He was just the front man. So who was behind him? Who was orchestrating all of this? That's what I really want to know because he wasn't. I mean, I would say I don't want to say he wasn't orchestrating anything. He was obviously the front man. He had to make the moves, but and he was being elevated into very affluent circles. And um, mainly, though, I think that he was just kind of casting a wide net and seeing, you know, who he could get. It didn't really matter, but if you who he got, if you were in a position of power or you had a large amount of resources at your disposal, um, you were a good catch. Now, was there directions on, hey, go see if you could rope this person in and get something on them? I'm sure that happened. Sure that happened too. But ultimately, I want to know who, like, I want to know names, not just the organizations. We know who the organizations are, which, Mossad should be considered a hostile and an entity in and of itself. They are a foreign intelligence agency that spies on us and uses blackmail. And I think that it's more than obvious or it, how obvious that is growing amongst the conservative base. And the CIA, well, I think that they are, I mean, what good have they ever done? There might be some intelligence that came out of the CIA, but has it outweighed the damage that they have done? How many millions of people have died just through all the coups and sabotage that the CIA has done? They spy on us. They actually they test, psychological programs on Americans. I mean, this is a hostile entity. And one of the things when Trump was running and promising basically to be our sword of vengeance against the deep state, I wanted to see the CIA completely gutted and ripped out. Same thing with the FBI. And I'm not saying that there we could go with no intelligence organizations, but the existing ones are so corrupt and rotten that I don't think that they're salvageable at all. We have I mean, all their trade craft is, there's people that could teach their trade craft, but like the heart of the institutions are rotten. I think that you have to start from the ground up, and if it sets us a couple years back in the intelligence gathering, then so be it. What's the alternative? But I think that the CIA and the FBI and the NSA, basically all the three-letter agencies, I just believe that they're anathema to um, freedom and a good, healthy living. I don't think that they bring anything to the table that we can't do without, and I think that they do more harm than good. And I believe that they were directly, or at least levels of them. They're all compartmentalized, from what I understand. It's not just like a monolith agency that everybody inside knows what everybody else is doing. In fact, it's like the exact opposite of that. But the fact that an agency as powerful as the CIA, with as much funding as the CIA, on the books and black funding, um, the fact that all these really sick things could be pulled off under the cover of this government organization means that the government organization needs to go, in my opinion. I mean, they've run drugs into our country, they've destabilized entire regions. I mean, what good have they done? But back to Epstein. One final word on this Epstein. Well, not final word on Epstein because I'm not going to stop talking about it. There is no client list that's going to come out. This is going to it's a festering wound in our republic, and I don't think that we're ever going to get the satisfaction of what these people deserve, you know, for what they did to these children, and also, what it's done to our republic. You know, everything has gone downhill, and sometimes, like before you really wake up to it all, you look around and you're like, why are they making the decisions that they're making? Like, what rational, like, patriotic person on the right or the left would make these decisions? These are destructive decisions. Like time and time again, everything from running our debt up, our deficit, um, to blowing open our borders and pushing the LGBTQ bullshit in our schools, and just every aspect that has been allowed to take hold of our society has been backed by our politicians. And you wonder why. And I mean, the only conclusion is unless every single one of them is a sick psychopath, the only other conclusion is that they're blackmailed, that they've done, and not all sexual blackmail, but they've done things that have provided leverage against them. And so the people that do want to see us destroyed, that do want to rob this place blind, could, basically force their hand into voting in and allowing certain actions that are destructive. I mean, what else makes sense? So I think that we will never get the satisfaction of seeing, a definitive list come out where we're all like, here's all the people and the problem is cured, and here's the people that were running them, and they're facing the same, you know, kind justice as the rest of them. We're never going to see that. So as I do, I look for the positive. What good can come out of this? Because there could be some good that comes out of this. And I think that the good that could come out of this is it wakes people up. It's a festering wound. This is getting us one step closer to the drastic radicalization that is required to break loose of corrupt this corrupt republic. I guess it's technically a republic. They're not representing us. Um, but it's going to take millions of people just hitting the wall and saying enough is enough. I'm not going along with this anymore. And I think that this is going to be a very big stepping stone in that direction. Is it going to be the final straw? I don't know, maybe. It is big. It is it's a pretty big thing to come to the realization that your government not only funded but protected sex offenders, and that possibly without without evidence coming out and people that are guilty getting justice or getting justice served to them, the only assumption that you could have is that they're all compromised, that in fact you aren't living in a representative republic, you're living in a blackmail empire. What other, I mean, if that doesn't radicalize you, I don't think anything will. But just so that's my 2 cents. Look at this, a boat on the side of the road. Hello, boat. I wouldn't hold your breath for the list. What I would do is, if you're already awake and you're paying attention and you're already kind of radicalized, look to the people in your life and just point out. You don't have to spell everything out. Just point out a few things, a few really like glaring hypocrisies, and float those ideas of, are we really being represented as the voters, or are all our politicians compromised, blackmail perverts? You can never wake too many people up. With that, I'm going to go ahead and end this. And if you liked it, like and subscribe. I need to get to 50 subscribers so that I could do a live on a mobile device. Trying to do this on a PC in a moving vehicle is more of a headache than it's worth, I think. Just can't seem to get it right. So, if you like this, like the video, and I would always appreciate a sub. Help me get to at least that 50. think I've got I'm almost there. I think I got like 10 or 12 to go or something like that. So, YouTube's a funny beast.